Good morning. Oh, it's a day in 2020. I think it's April 2nd. Who's keeping track? Only humans have calendars. All the other animals just live in the present. So it's today. I'm taking a walk in the woods, having lots of thoughts and asking myself, should you share this, Allie, or should you just talk with God and keep walking? And I feel like I'm getting the message more and more to lay low, be quiet, listen more, be cautious. Be cautious as serpents. That is a very good message to consider, especially in these days. There is a big shift going on. We're all walking around seeing it. Not a lot of people are talking about it because you're either going to get narked on, labeled as a crazy conspiracy theorist, or even more socially distanced, emotionally distanced. I'm very happy today. The sun is out. It's such a treat. It's truly a gift. I haven't seen it for like a month, and it's glorious. This is my pharmacy. Trees, grass, fresh air, sunlight. I was raised in a house. I guess I dedicate this video to my dad and my grandma Lily, his mother. She died when I was 10, and I just have the fondest memories hanging out in her kitchen. She would make me rice pudding with cinnamon and nutmeg. She was just the kindest woman. She had a little garden, so whenever I smell dill and parsley, I think of Lily. And I don't know exactly where this all came from, but I was never vaccinated as a child. Obviously, there's this whole new anti-vax culture these days. Yeah, by the way, this is probably going to be a very controversial video. I think I'm going to entitle it The Pandemic of Fear and Control. And a lot of people who subscribe to my channel are cult survivors just like me. We came out of the cult known as the Jehovah's Witnesses, the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, International Bible Students. There's a lot of names. It's a multi-tentacle beast that has lots of corporations and lawyers. 1 John 4:18, where there is love, love casts out fear. But we should still be cautious as serpents, innocent as doves. I have two stories to share with you, because really that's all we ever have is our personal testimony. Take it or leave it. Listen between the lines, because I am not going to start touting my own alternative medical opinions, because there's a lot of other YouTubers who do it way better than me. And I urge you to seek them out and give them an open mind. Before I tell you these two brief stories, I was taking this walk realizing that I fell right into it. What do I mean by this? Into it. 2.5 weeks ago, I went on a little trip to visit some friends by plane, and it was just as this whole pandemic was reaching global proportions. And I spoke to a friend who has training both in the medical community and the airline industry, and I asked this friend, like, am I endangering myself or my family or others by going out there and possibly being exposed? And basically this person's response was, practice good hygiene like you always do. Wash your hands, don't touch your face, and don't hang around people who are snoffing. That would be a combination of coughing and sneezing. People who are snoffing. And so I got on the plane and I took my little trip. Well, I ended up coming home 2 days early because I got pulled into this fear vortex where I had read this post about slowing the curve and how if you go out, you are endangering your grandma and grandpa and your mom and your dad, your elderly friends, those with immune deficiencies, by being out. Well, guess what? Let's pause. Let's ask some critical thinking questions, just like we did of the cult we escaped. Like, we actually are equipped with certain skills because we left a high control situation. And there is high control everywhere. People who are elderly, people who have compromised immune systems, they are at risk all the time. They are especially at risk during cold and flu season. And we should always take care around those communities all the time, not just during, like I said, cold and flu season. So yes, I do recognize the importance of that. I'm not just saying like do whatever you want. In no way, shape, or form am I saying that. Here, let's look somewhere else. This is a great trail. This is the Ice Age Trail in Wisconsin. I still need to do research about that, like the Ice Age, global flood. Like, I still don't really know what I think about all of that, to be totally honest. Okay. So yeah, always take care around elderly and immune compromised people. Sorry, I'm gonna pause for a second. Let's just listen to some silence. Control. This is a true story. My husband and I moved back up to Wisconsin. Let me first finish the other story. So I ended up cutting my trip short, coming back 2 days early because I didn't want to get potentially stuck in a quarantine in another state. I wanted to be near my family and my house and my dog, and so I left early. And I was just, I look back, it's like, I fell for it again. I was just gulping down all this mainstream media fear, and it impacted my health. I felt it in my chest. I felt like this pressure on my heart, and my head was spinning, and it was just like, what do I have to trust these people. They're the experts. Does that sound familiar? Trust us. Speaking of trusting people, I acknowledge people who spend 8, 10, 12 years in medical school, but I don't trust them. I'll listen to them, and then I will do my own research. I've always been like that since I was a little kid. I was like a little conspiracy theorist from like the age of 5. So my husband and I moved back up to Wisconsin 8 years ago. 8 years ago this month, actually, because my dad was very, very ill with chronic lymphocytic leukemia. Whenever I would come up and visit my parents, I would think to myself, this is probably the last time I'm going to see my dad. And then we would, I'd go back to Texas. And finally my husband was like, we should go and be closer to your parents during this time. So we moved back up here, and I went to my dad's oncology appointment. Really, really nice doctor. Very friendly. And I went there as my dad's advocate to hear, and I'm not an oncologist. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm a lay person, but I have a thirst for knowledge. I love researching how the human body works and what can we do to give it the best shot possible at trying to survive a army of pathogens that's out here all the time. okay, so I go to my dad's oncology appointment, and the doctor is like, you need to go on chemo. And so I said, well, what specifically type of chemo? And he's like, oh, chemo has become very specific. Before it used to be like, it would just kill everything, but now it's very site specific. And I'm like, well, let me go home and research the specific drug you want to give my dad. And we're gonna sit on it. We're gonna wait, because at that time my dad was severely underweight, had no appetite, all the things that go along with that type of leukemia. Long story short, and I'm not going to say the specific supplements that we use, but I came up with a regimen, put my dad on it. He went back to his oncology appointment, I want to say 4 weeks later, it might have been 6 weeks later, and all, ALL, his numbers moved in the positive direction. White cell blood count went down, because that's the problem with leukemia. The white cells basically crowd out all the red blood cells, so you're always tired because you're not getting enough oxygen. So white blood cell count went down, red blood cell count went up, he gained weight, like all the numbers improved. And guess what the oncologist said? Oh, it's just a coincidence. These numbers move around all the time. Really? If he had been put on the chemo drug and the numbers all went in the positive direction, then of course it would have been because the chemo was working. Come on. Well, that was 8 years ago. My dad is going to be celebrating his 84th birthday this year. There's some dogs. I hear them. So that's story number 1. Story number 2. My dad, no, it's not my parents' fault. I grew up eating sugar. Sugar. I am a sugar-aholic. I love candy, sugar, chocolate, all of that garbage. And I have a family history of like poor dental stuff and had a ton of cavities. And I had all of my teeth filled with amalgam fillings with like silver and mercury. So I'm going through my life. I'm constantly getting sick. I would get like strep throat 4 or 5 times a year. And just always sick. My glands would always be huge, and I just always felt like crap. Well, I was recommended a really good holistic dentist in Austin, Texas. Amazing dentist. And I'm just like, do I hear a person? No, I think it's a frog. He recommended, I knew I wanted to get all this amalgam out of my mouth. So he safely removed all of the amalgam. By the way, he did ozone therapy intravenously and vitamin C intravenous. Like, do your research about intravenous vitamin C as far as combating virus. I've known about this for years, but whatever. And when I got out of that very long surgery, he also removed a root canal tooth that had no symptoms. I had no pain. I had spent all this money to have a tooth root canaled and crowned, and he's like, no, you need to get that out of your mouth. And if you want to know why you should have all of your root canals removed out of your mouth, read the book Rescued by My Dentist by Dr. Cook. Just read the book. It's short. When I got out of that surgery, I got in the car and I had the most extreme, like, emotional release, for lack of a better word. Like, my whole body started shaking. I started crying, but it was like, when you have like a really, really good cry and your body just releases everything toxic through tears and crying. I had this amazing cry, and I literally felt like an exorcism had been performed on me. I'm not being literal. It's not like I believe there were demons living in my mouth, but like all of that toxic mercury. So this is what I'm saying when it comes to this pandemic of fear that has been fed to the entire planet right now. It is crazy to think that literally we're not allowed to like leave our houses. It is 2020. Look at what is happening. So yeah, if you want to keep watching mainstream media, that's your choice. I just bow to, well, no, I don't bow. I say thank you to YouTubers and people on the ground who are putting their necks on the chopping block to share truth. And there's a video that has been taken down multiple times. Actually, little shout out to a fellow XJW activist, Ugly Watchtower. This lady is very passionate, and she also clearly scours the news, and I really appreciate the work she does. She put up a video a couple days ago about a former employee, I think kind of high up in the chain for a telecommunications company, and that video got removed within 12 hours on multiple YouTube channels. That to me is enough evidence that they were saying something valid. Because yeah, so you want to talk about like freedom of speech? Freedom of speech is an illusion. And that is why having a close circle of friends like on the ground who you can communicate with is more important than like listening to a girl on YouTube. I'm speaking like this is like whatever. There is a war going on in a realm we cannot physically see, but with our perceptive powers trained by the source of life, Jesus Christ, we can have eyes of discernment. I censor myself so much when I come on here and ramble, and I just can't do it anymore. I don't have time for it, actually. So I'm going to go back to being cautious as a serpent and slither into the bushes over here. And just, yeah, I think I'm going to take a break, actually. But with that being said, if there are any ladies who watch my videos that want to participate in a private, small circle of Christian sisterhood fellowship where we encourage each other, support each other, set goals with each other, and just that's what I want to do right now. So I'll put my email address below if that's something you want to do with me. Like I said, small and intimate. I would enjoy doing that with some other women. And in the meantime, stay safe. Be careful what you put in your mind and in your mouth and in your body. We reach a threshold on the cellular level where our bodies literally cannot handle any more toxicity. Stress kills. When you turn on the TV, they are just bombarding us with stress, stressful stories. I'm not saying that it's not all real. Tragedy happens every day. Thousands and thousands of people die every day from the common cold because of underlying health complications. So what is that telling us? We need to take good care of ourselves. Good food, clean water, exercise, deep breathing. All the things our grandmas did. So, I look forward to the day when I'll see Grandma Lily again, and she'll, she only knew me up to the age of 10. Be well. Shalom.